Welcome to your iconic image. If you want to take control of your image and be a power player in your space, then this is the show for you. Here we will arm you with tools and information to help you grow your brand on purpose. I'm your host, Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Now let's dive into today's episode. Britt Lightning is the musical director for Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, as well as the lead guitarist for the legendary all-female rock band Vixen. To say her accomplishments are outstanding would be an understatement, and the list of musicians she's performed with beyond impressive. In addition to playing stadium tours, festivals, and international TV specials, she has also hosted and helped produce over 150 online masterclasses for Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, as well as planning live camps and working as a counselor and the musical director. Labeled the closer by Lady Gaga, Britt has followed her dreams by striving to grow and evolve as a musician and a person. Welcome, Britt. I'm really excited to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So first of all, I have to ask, why the closer?
So basically when I did the audition for Lady Gaga, we got the call back. We auditioned in front of other people. Then finally we auditioned in front of her on this soundstage for a few days. And she didn't really want us to play any of her songs initially. She just said, do something to impress me. So I just kind of got up there and I shredded and I played behind my head and I was on the floor and just, trying to be flashy and doing what I thought at the time might be impressive. And she loved it. And she just said, you're like the closer when the baseball team needs to close the game. They throw in that one guy and he'll just close the game up. He'll hit the home run at the end and sweep it. So that's what she meant by that. And I was like, okay, I'll take it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And here you are, you're living the dream of what many people have in your industry. You're making money and making a living and touring as a musician. So what do you think was instrumental to helping you get to that point? Was there an incident? Was it just persistence? Was it a person that you met along the way? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I think it was mostly finding my own confidence within myself and realizing that you have to get out there and you may have insecurities. I feel like every artist has insecurities, maybe every person, but especially in the arts, it's personal, you as a photographer, art is so subjective. So people can love you and people can hate you. And you have to be okay with that and be okay with people that they're going to criticize you. Some people aren't going to love what you do, but you still have to put yourself out there. You could be the best living room guitar player in the world, but that's not going to really help. You get out there and really make money. Although in today's world with YouTube, maybe you can, but as far as like being a touring musician and getting out there, that's what I really had to get over. I had a fear of like a stage fright basically when I started too. I was afraid of jamming with people, getting up at a jam and just, I hated improvising and things being unplanned. I'm a little type A. So it was kind of like, if I didn't practice something perfectly, I felt completely unprepared and unqualified to try something, but, you got to get over that. So I think that really helped me more than anything. And just also going for the plan B for a little bit, working in an office environment, getting into business, and realizing, I want to kill myself. I'd rather be a poor, struggling musician than, work in the same office every day in the same four walls and feel this boxed in routine lifestyle. That just wasn't for me. So also trying something and feeling uncomfortable and knowing, what makes you tick, really helped.
Yeah. And, I think like you touched on, any type of artist, whether you're a musician or a poet or a photographer or a painter, every time that you create something, it's a piece of you. And so I think it's the criticism or the expected criticism of that kind of tricks us up sometimes, instead of just putting out what we need to put out.
Right. Exactly. Just do you, because, I love the line that you're the best version of you. The thing that makes you unique, it's not, you can do this, play this guitar like that nobody else can, or you can sing like this. It's you are you. That's your superpower, right? So we got to stick with it. And it doesn't matter if it's good, it's bad, and you can't compare yourself to others. That is like death, right? because there's always going to be somebody you think is better than you. Of course,
Absolutely.
I'm never going to be Jimi Hendrix. I don't need to try to be him. You got to just do what you do.
Exactly. So I'm interested about the stage fright portion of it. So the very first time that you ever went on stage to play live, what did that feel like?
I was very, very, very nervous. So I I don't know if I moved the entire time. I think I just stood there and stared at my fingers. But it was liberating because I got up and did it. Because the very first time I had the opportunity to get on stage, I felt so sick to my stomach, I ended up not doing it. And that made me feel horrible. And I realized, okay, this is pathetic. I can never feel like this again. This is like super low. I hate this. Actually, so the very first time I did end up getting on stage, it was kind of unplanned, but I was underage, and a coworker of my mom's was playing in a cover band in a bar, and so I got in underage just to see him. He invited me to come see his guitar playing and stuff, and he pulled me up on stage for a song, and I did not want to get up, but he kind of forced me to, and so that was a good icebreaker, especially because it was unplanned. So it was more like, spontaneous, and I couldn't really overthink it.
Yeah. So when you get up there now, what does it feel like?
Now it feels great. I still get a little nervous. I still get, pre-show jitters. But I know how to get in the right mindset. Also, meditation helped me out a lot. When I did like my first stadium show, I was freaking out. It was our first show with a new artist I was playing for, Alejandro Sanz, and it was our first gig. And it was a stadium in Mexico City, and it was live streaming on Univision. And so that's a lot of people, especially when it's streaming live. And I just remember the music director had these, we had in-ears, and the curtain was up, and right as the count off was going, right before the curtain came down, he said, well, just don't fuck up.
Oh, lovely.
And then the curtain went down, and it was like, okay, we're in this. There's no turning back now. But breathing and meditation and getting in the right mindset helped a lot. Just getting focused and taking that quiet time before you step out on stage, and just kind of manifesting the way you want the gig to go, because it has so much to do with mindset. Yeah.
So how did you wind up with Vixen?
I wound up with Vixen because, I had moved to LA, and I grew up in Boston. I got sick of the cold. I ended a tour, and I was like, it's time to go there. It was always on my bucket list to say I lived in Los Angeles. And, I just started getting involved with the jam scene here, which is just so cool, because we didn't have that in Boston. Any night of the week, you can go out in LA and jam and see musicians and maybe get on stage and meet people and network. So I started doing that, and I started playing in a all-female Guns N' Roses tribute band, and I was doing a show. I think it was either a show with the tribute band and one of the jam nights, kind of both in one night. And Vixen's manager was there, and it wasn't really public knowledge at the time that Vixen was looking for a new guitar player, but he saw me and told the other women in the band about me. And then I was invited to audition a few weeks later, and the rest is history.
Love it. So what are some of the things that go on behind the scenes in the music business that people don't know, that maybe somebody who wants to be involved in music should know?
Oh, there's probably a lot. Let's see. In what aspect? Are you referring to anything in particular? Or?
No, just anything that jumps out at you, because not being in the music business, I would have no idea what to ask you about it.
I think networking is huge, and almost equally as important as your ability to play, if we're talking about players in the business, is your personality, because you want to like your band. And if you're going to live together on a bus or tour together for months at a time, you want to get along. And the more I've been in it, the more I've turned down gigs because I don't think I'm going to, I don't love the people involved or something like that, because life is too short. You want to enjoy yourself. So at this point, it's kind of like, you gotta love who you work with, because you want enjoy yourself and make it fun. And one thing I know is every time I see photos from a Vixen show, we're always laughing. And I never remember what we're laughing at, but some pictures, it looks like I'm just completely cracking up. And it's like, nothing is that funny, but I'm having a really good time. And that's genuine. And I think that translates to the audience too. And they can tell. And people have a good time if they're seeing somebody having a good time. If somebody looks serious and nervous, if you're watching them, you're going to kind of feel like, oh, yikes, I hope they're okay. Or just, not enjoy it as much. So that's a big thing. Let's see, something else. I think just networking. Yeah. Being a good person, because word of mouth is the main reason that I've gotten most of my gigs.
Yeah. I think people underestimate networking in a multitude of industries.
Yeah.
And it's so important.
It is. It really is.
What about the music business, in general, anything that surprised you about it?
I mean, I think this might be common knowledge, but you have to have a thick skin. I mean, you have to meet a lot of opposition. You have to audition and get turned down. You have to, just keep pounding the pavement. You have to, people say, take every opportunity. And that's true. Like for the most part, if you're trying to break in, take every opportunity, even if it's not the right amount of money, or even if it's not the kind of music you like, but you meet people, you expand that circle that you have, and word gets out. So I think that's important. Yeah.
What has been one of your best memories so far?
Oh, I'm lucky. I have a lot of great memories. Definitely with Vixen, playing overseas, playing those big rock festivals like Sweden Rock and Grass Pop. Definitely with Alejandro playing those big stadiums. I think one of my best memories is actually playing Costa Rica with Alejandro Sanz. My parents had never been to Costa Rica, so they were like, we're going to come out and see you in Costa Rica. And they've always been very supportive of my musical career, but not always gotten it or like the music, the rock stuff, I don't know, supportive, but, kind of like, when is she going to grow out of this phase, I think. And then I remember getting off stage and meeting my parents backstage after the Costa Rica show. And my dad just had tears in his eyes. And he said, even though, this was in Spanish and I didn't even understand the lyrics, like that was so beautiful. And just the energy here and all the people in the vibe, he's like, you really did it. You really, he said, I had chills the whole concert. Like, you really did it. So that made me feel good. So I'll always remember that moment as like, oh, they finally recognize that, like, I can make a living doing this, or this can be a real thing. It's not just a phase.
Yeah. Out of all of the people that you've worked with, have you ever been starstruck with any of them?
Yes. I mean, definitely. I think I'm always a little starstruck in a way that, like, I'm just like, is this real life? Like, am I really, growing up having posters of you on my walls or something like that, but now I'm playing a gig with you and we're having coffee backstage. Like, this is, yeah. So I think in that sense, I always like feel that I have to pinch myself moments. A little less than starstruck. I think I just try to remember that everybody's a regular person. I mean, so I keep that in mind, and that helps. But I mean, we just did a rock camp down in Florida with Joe Perry. That was pretty awesome. I mean, when you see somebody so iconic like that, I mean, that makes you go like, wow, So yeah, that was a moment recently.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing about that to me is that you get to feel that, and all of the things that you've described up to now about going out on stage for the first time and whatnot, you get to relive through other people too, every single camp. Because
I do.
They get to, but tell everybody a little bit about what Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp is for the people that don't know.
Yeah, so it's basically a 4-day experience. People from all over the world get together. We had somebody from Finland, somebody from Australia at the last camp. People come from all over, all different ages, men and women, all different skill levels. Some people have been in bands before. Some people have never played outside of their bedrooms. And they get together, they join a band of people they've never met with. And in these 4 days, they're mentored by a rock star counselor like me. And and we help them be in a band and grow and play live shows. They do 2 live performances at public venues where they can invite their friends and family to come. And when we do the camps in LA, the final performance is at the Whiskey A Go-Go, legendary venue. And then they get to jam with their musical heroes and their themes. So this upcoming camp that we have, for example, is a women's camp, and we have Melissa Etheridge, we have Nancy Wilson apart, Kathy Valentine of the Go-Go's, Ori Anthe. So those headline artists, they get to jam with them, in addition to playing the 2 live shows. And so you see a tremendous amount of growth and appreciation, and people just really passionate and invigorated to play music, because most of these people aren't musicians for their job. They don't get to do it professionally. And that's something that I don't think I take for granted, but you can. And so it's always like a great reminder to see somebody just so excited to just jam and to just rock out. And it's like, oh yeah, that reminds me of when I kind of first started, in that enthusiasm. And it's always uplifting, and just the transformation that some people go through. I remember at one of these last camps, there was a guy who was a little shy, and then I see him on stage, and he has a cape on, he got all dressed up, and he's just giving it his all, stage moves, and it was awesome to see.
So tell me more about stuff like that. What have been some of your favorite experiences at camp, that with either the campers or the other musicians?
You know, one of my favorite experiences was I did a camp, and my band was a little bit more of a beginner band that I took on. And, we rehearsed, we worked really hard, and we created this medley, and we were going to perform that at the Whiskey. And so when we got to the medley, everything was cool, but the pace was a little fast. It started off fast. We were supposed to start quite a few BPM slower. And so we started, but the drummer was a little nervous. And so we were just like in it, going like a freight train. And the rest of the band members are looking at me like, what do we do? And I'm like, well, we just keep going. And, I'm doing all these charades, like trying to bring down the tempo, but it went. So it didn't, to me, feel like we did it in rehearsal exactly, which, that happens. Things change live. It was still good, but I had this idea in my head for some reason that they were going to be a little disappointed because, it wasn't the way we had rehearsed it exactly. So we're collecting our stuff, getting off stage, and I'm thinking in my head, what am I going to say to these guys so they feel really good about it? Because it was still good. I just know they might be like, oh, it wasn't like we wanted it to be. And so I'm thinking of what to say. And right when I'm about to say something, they're just like, oh, high five. Oh my God, best day of my life. I can die happy now. Like bucket list complete. Like nobody. And that's me being like a, professional, like, perfectionist. Like this is, how I critique my gigs, which is totally not what rock camp is about at all. So that was a moment for me, like, oh yeah, why did I even have that thought? Like it's not even about that. These people had the best time of their lives. They played on stage, they rocked out, and it doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah. Does that do something for you when you see people back at the base of it all? And
yeah, absolutely. It like puts you back in check. It's like, oh yeah, don't be so serious. Don't be so critical. It's only rock and roll.
Yeah.
Have
Is there
fun.
anybody that you have not had a chance to play with yet that you would love to?
Joe Walsh. He's one of my favorites.
Mm.
Yeah, Joe Walsh. I love the Eagles. I'd like to say Don Henley, but he'd probably be just too scary. Joe Walsh seems more fun. Who else? I mean, Santana is amazing. I'm trying to think of people that are alive that, David Gilmour. I keep telling David to get David Gilmour for a rock camp. I don't think he's going to do it though, but, Slash,
Oh
guys.
yeah. Yeah. Not a good one. So when you are putting together a rock camp, what are some of the first steps for you? Is it securing the professional musicians?
Yeah, securing the main headliners, like, oh, who is going to attract people? Who do people want to jam with? Who haven't we had? What's some fresh ideas? So like right now we're planning a camp for October, which I'm not going to give it away, but we're like, what's a cool concept that would intrigue people that maybe is fresh and we haven't done, or some new talent that we haven't had. So that's kind of where it starts. And then we think, oh, well, where does that talent live? Oh, they're in New York. Maybe we should do a New York camp. We haven't done a New York camp yet this year. And then just like, yeah, thinking about the counselors and thinking about, who fits in that style. And then, a lot of moving parts, and you got to think about catering. You got to think about transportation. Most of all, you got to think about rehearsal spaces, because that's usually the hardest thing to find. How many rehearsal spaces are we going to need? And is it a good environment to hold a camp at for 4 days? And then securing the live venues and all that stuff, a lot of logistics.
So how did you wind up in this position with Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp? Were you a guest there first, or?
I was a counselor first in 2019, and I did my first camp. And then I think some people had just given good feedback to David, saying that, Britt's a great new counselor. And, not only does she do music, but, she has a degree in music business. And so then David and I had lunch and discussed some things afterwards, and decided that, let's start planning camps together. And, maybe I can help with some ideas. So we started working together and then planning all these camps. And then of course, COVID hit. So we transitioned, and we were able to do online master classes. So we did over 150 online master classes during COVID, which was amazing, with big stars like Roger Daltrey and Alice Cooper and stuff like that. And that kind of kept things going in the interim. And then now we've got these live camps back. And since January, we've done 5 camps. And this women's camp coming up in a couple of weeks, it will be our 6th. And then we're going to take the summer off. Just because most people are on tour. So it's hard to get a lot of artists, and Vixen's going on tour anyway. So that works out. And then kick things off again in the fall.
So where have you not been with Vixen that you would like to go?
I've never been to Italy, and I'm Italian. So for some reason, I've had festivals and dates there, and they've always gotten canceled with multiple artists. I don't know why. I've never been to Italy. So that's on my list. Also Japan.
Nice. And you touched on, your degree in music business. Do you think that having a degree, or at least knowing the business side of things, helps in the music business?
Definitely. Yeah, definitely. You want to know what you're talking about. And I think sometimes if people think you don't know what you're talking about, they'll take advantage of you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know, even with photography, people think, oh, I'm just going to buy a camera. I'm going to hang a shingle out, and I'm just going to create, and life is going to be wonderful. But there's a business side of it. And I know with photography, it's maybe 15 to 20% creative, and the rest is you have to know business and marketing and all those kinds of things. What would you say the percentage is with music?
Probably the same. I mean, if you want to do music as a career, that's your business. So you have to know that that's your business, right? You have to survive. So I think the more skills, the more that's only going to help you, Yeah. No, I think it is very important. And especially like, I don't know, a lot of people don't use contracts, but to know how to read a contract, to know what you're signing, doing, albums and TV spots and things like that. You want to just know what's going on. You don't want to get screwed just because you were uninformed.
Yeah, because you hear a lot in the music business, on these TV shows where they give a history of the band and whatnot, that, oh yes, the promoter or the record company or whoever was making a gazillion dollars and we had like 6 cents to our name. And so I would think that knowing what you're walking into, or at least educating yourself as much as possible, would be a big help.
Definitely. And, how things are split, even if you're writing, co-writing, how that works, how to get royalties, how to make money. That's important because you can, pursue your passion all day long, but if you can't make any money, you're not going to be enjoying it as much. That's for sure.
So if somebody doesn't necessarily want to get a degree in music business, but they want to pursue music as a career, is there any advice that you would give them to at least do this so you educate yourself?
I would say, don't put all your eggs in one basket. And I'm not saying don't pursue music, but I'm saying don't, always have multiple sources of income. I think that's important. And I think most people realize that during the pandemic. I mean, we couldn't do live performances. So I was so grateful to have other skills. And it doesn't mean you're not a musician. It just means you're well-rounded. And it's funny because a lot of people, when I did those master classes, a lot of artists said, I am successful because I didn't have a plan B. And I get that, but I also think it's always good to support yourself and to have a fallback because the world is crazy. We could have another pandemic. It's always good to have other skills and to be flexible. You have to be flexible in the music business because it's up and down and you're always hustling and nothing is for certain.
Mm. So what do you do to always make sure that you keep growing as a musician and as a person?
I always take challenges. If somebody asks me to do something and I'm not comfortable with it, I go out of my comfort zone and I just go for it. I'm always trying to learn new hobbies and do new things. I started painting and some people have been buying my paintings recently. And that was kind of like outside of my comfort zone. Like, can I sell my paintings? Are they good enough? I don't know. But just doing different things, reading. I'd say I, do a lot of, watching the news and things like that, but I don't, but just reading, autobiographies, anything, learning from other people's experience and talking to people as much as possible. And, if you do meet somebody in the industry, like go and have lunch with them and pick their brain. People like to share their knowledge too. People like to, share their experiences, and you can learn so much from other people's mistakes. So, it's a good way to avoid making them yourself. Learn about that first.
Absolutely. So any advice that you would give to somebody who is a younger version of you, who's trying to get into the music business, what would you say to them?
Yeah, I would say go for it. Don't let anybody tell you you can't. I had a lot of people tell me I can't. My parents doubted it a lot too, even though they were supportive, but I just knew what I wanted. And if you know what makes you happy, you have to do that, because it doesn't matter what your friends think, what your parents think, what your significant other thinks, anybody. You have to answer to yourself at the end of the day. And only you can make yourself happy. You can't look to somebody else or something to make you happy. You have to be satisfied with you and what you've done and what you do every day. And so if playing music makes you happy, it doesn't matter what anybody thinks, what opposition you face. Any challenges or obstacles make you stronger. So, and you miss 100% of the chances you don't take. So really just go for it and just trust your gut.
What was the biggest obstacle you faced?
Probably, not having a gig. When you just are like, oh, what am I doing? Like a tour ended and I have nothing going on, and how am I going to get the next thing? Or if you feel like, the phone's not ringing and you're not finding anything, and what do I do now? And, I think that is a constant thing. And you just have to keep a positive mindset, stay positive, don't get down, don't get depressed, don't hang the guitar up on the wall and say, well, I just must not be good enough. And give it up. But be creative, think of creative. You got to think outside the box.
Yeah. That just reminded me, there's a quote that says, if it's important, you'll find a way. If not, you'll find an excuse. And I think what you just said was a perfect example of that, because even though you didn't necessarily have anything, it still didn't stop you from getting that thing.
Right. And I like that quote. That's a good one. I haven't heard that one.
So with that, Britt, I just have 4 final questions for you. First one is, what is the best piece of advice you were ever given?
I think just sort of touched on it before, but just be unapologetically you.
Share with us one thing on your bucket list.
I would like to take a flight in a P-51 Mustang, an old warplane. I would, really like that.
Do you fly?
I don't. I want to get my pilot's license. I haven't had the time. I guess that's an excuse. But
at least that's a legitimate excuse.
Yeah, I love old warbirds. I love old World War II planes and stuff. And I like to go to air museums and stuff when I'm on the road and check out different planes, dorky side. But yeah, I would love to take a flight in a Mustang.
So when the toy companies finally get around to making an action figure of you, what 2 accessories will it come with?
A guitar and maybe a lightning bolt.
And the last one, Britt, how do people find you? And also, if they're interested in Rock Camp, how do they find that?
Okay. BrittLightning.com, VixenOfficial.com. I'm at Britt Lightning on social media. Rock Camp is rockcamp.com. And on social media, it's at Rock Fantasy Camp. And sign up for the newsletter on rockcamp.com and you'll be updated on all the latest camps and new things happening. And BrittLightning.com will have all the tour dates where you can see me on the road.
Love it. And I look forward to seeing you at the next camp.
I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for being here. Thank you for joining us. Once again, I'm Marlana Semenza, photographer and visual strategist. Please comment, like, or share this episode, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss a thing. For more information on how I can help you create your iconic image, visit marlanasemenza.com.